What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. Now it's Christmas Eve, and I wanted to do this video. I want to talk about COLA, so I want to talk about the dates when the COLA, the new adjustments will arrive. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I also want to talk about Congress in 2022. There are a few things that we know that have been left on the table from 2021. And so we're going to talk a little bit about those things. And then we're going to talk about the possibilities of those things being implemented. And then I want to take a look at Congress, the Congressional Calendar. When are they returning? How long are they going to be working in January? So we'll talk a little bit about that. But first off, on this channel, we talk about financial news and more. If that sounds like something interesting to you, please subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell notification. That way you'll get notified anytime we put out a video. And like always, if you see my name and a picture of me in the comment section, make sure you also see a check mark next to my name. That check mark signifies that it's me. If you do not see that check mark, it's not me. It's someone trying to impersonate me. Okay, so let's go right over to my illustration. I'm going to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to the checks when they're going to start going out, the new adjustment. Okay, so we know it's a 5.9% adjustment for people receiving Social Security and people on a fixed income. So let's look up at the top here, and this will outline exactly what's going on when it comes to when those checks will arrive for you, because not everyone will receive the checks on the same date. So they're basically going off your birth date. So if your birth date is between the 1st and the 10th, then that means you're going to receive it on the second Wednesday of each month. If your birth date is between the 11th and the 20th, that means you'll receive it the third Wednesday of each month. And then if your birth date is on the 21st through the 31st, then you'll receive it the fourth Wednesday of each month. And so I outlined it here in January so you guys can see exactly what we're talking about here. So we're looking at the 12th here, the 19th, and the 26th. And so based on when your birth date is, that's when you'll receive that COLA increase. And so like we said, it's going to be a 5.9% increase. And so for the average person receiving Social Security, it should equate to be about $100. I think it's $92 to be exact. Some people will receive more, some people will receive less. It just depends on how much money you're receiving in Social Security currently. And so this is one of those situations where it's 5.9%, but guess what? Our inflation for the last few months has been over 6%. And so we're looking at a situation where you're receiving a COLA, but inflation is higher than what that COLA actually is. So you're still in a situation where a year ago, your money went further than will be going in 2022, at least the beginning of 2022. Let's hope that those numbers will drop when it comes to inflation. And that will help people out a lot, because that would mean that you'll be looking at a 5.9% increase for COLA. And then if inflation drops below that, well, now your money has more value. So we're going to have to follow it and see where it goes. But as of right now, 5.9%, January 12th, that will be the first increase. Okay, so let's go back over to the illustration here. And I want to talk a little bit about the Congressional Calendar. So this is important, and not everyone really realized this, because when I started putting out videos, about this, about the Congressional Calendar and how the Congress people are in recess a lot. Some people didn't understand that. They didn't realize that these people are going on recess. Now, a recess is not a vacation. However, it is a time where they go back to their home districts, and they're supposed to be talking with their constituents and trying to figure out the needs of their constituents. However, a lot of Congress people, they're not really doing much now, especially during the pandemic, because there's really they're not going to have large crowds and things like that. So they're not out there doing the little town halls and stuff like they were doing before. And so that gives them some time to kind of relax and be out of Washington, D.C. and not really do any work. Let's remember, they have to be in Washington, D.C. in order to vote on these bills. And if they're on recess all the time, they're not in Washington, D.C. voting on these bills. So let's take a look at their calendar. So we see here, so the blue here, let me just identify what we're looking at here. So the blue here, this is the Senate, and the yellow here, the yellow and blue, that is the House. So if we're looking at our calendar for that first week in January, we're looking at the Senate. The Senate will return, okay? So the Senate returns, but the House does not. So we'll just have the Senate there. And so we're probably going to hear a lot of Democrats talking about Build Back Better. That's the anticipation, because they need to get this going, and it's left up to the Senate at this point. The Senate has to move first, because the House already moved. The House already voted on Build Back Better, and they approved it. So now the Senate is going to have to move. And so we'll hear a lot of talk this first week of January about that. Now, the House will return on the 10th. Okay, so they're going to return on the 10th. So that second week, they'll be here the 10th. They'll be here the 11th. They'll be here the 12th, the 13th, but then they'll be off. They're going to be off. So the House will be off on the 14th. All right. So the Senate will be here for the first 2 weeks, and the House will be here for 4 days of the first 2 weeks. And then we have a holiday, so everyone will be off on that date, and then the House will return. Okay, the House will return on the 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st. Now the Senate won't be there, so it's like the House is there at a period of time, and then the Senate's there at a period of time. They're not really there too much altogether. It's usually kind of back and forth, and then the House will go on recess on the 24th here, and the Senate will return, and the Senate will be there from the 24th through the 28th, actually through the 31st. But the House will not be in session after the 21st. Okay, so the House won't be in session after this, and it'll just be the Senate. And so that's what we're looking at when it comes to the congressional calendar. So you see that basically the Senate is there. The Senate is actually there a lot. If you take a look, let's look at this again. You see all the blue that I was talking about here. The Senate is there a lot. It looks like they're going to miss 1 week from the 18th through the 21st, and that's not a full week, but they'll miss that. But other than that, they're going to be there pretty much the whole month. But the House will be out a lot of January. Okay, and every month we're going to follow this just to see when Congress is in session. Now, when it comes down to this whole thing here, Build Back Better is the major thing that they're going to be talking about. They're also going to be talking about the voter rights bill. Okay, so we're going to hear these two things talked about a lot when it comes to the beginning of the month, the beginning of the year, because we know Build Back Better needs to be addressed, and the way that it was left with Senator Manchin giving that surprise no. Well, I won't even call it a surprise no, but basically the bombshell was that he was saying no, and it didn't sound like he wanted to negotiate any further. So we'll have to see if that picks back up and they do start negotiating. But we're going to hear a lot about that. We're going to hear a lot about the voter rights bill, and we're going to hear about the filibuster. Okay, the filibuster is something that they're going to be talking about when it comes to the voting rights bill, because that's the only way that they're going to be able to pass it. Remember, these are Democrats that are trying to get this stuff through. Republicans aren't playing a role right now. They're not talking about any of this stuff, and they're not supporting any of this stuff. So it's going to be up to the Democrats to get this stuff done. Now, this is the important factor in 2022. Okay, it's an election year, and because it's an election year, you're going to see politicians doing things that they might not normally do. Okay, they might, in a situation like this, some of these bills might not get through because it's not an election year. But because it's an election year, this is something that it's very possible that we'll see some of this stuff actually get through, because they know they have to do something. We might even see some bipartisan bills go through because the Republicans have to show something as well. They can't just not do anything. You can't just be in opposition and not show anything. And the last thing that you're going to show is the infrastructure bill, that first infrastructure bill, and not all Republicans voted for that bill. So they're going to have to show something. So we might even see some bipartisan support for some of these different bills that go through. But that's what we're looking at right now when it comes to the calendar for January. So it can be busy. I mean, you see that you will have Congress there, but we'll have to see if Build Back Better can catch some steam. We'll have to see if the voting rights bill can catch some steam, and if they can really address the filibuster, because I think that's going to be the major thing. And they might even take up the filibuster first, because they know that voting rights bill is something that they really need to get through, because it's an election year. And so they might even start taking up the filibuster, maybe make an exception with the filibuster when it comes to the filibuster, and allow them to vote on that voting rights bill and then move forward with Build Back Better. And they might, I mean, let's face it, if they can't get Build Back Better as a large bill, then they're going to have to piecemeal it. And if they piecemeal it and have smaller bills, they're going to have to do a filibuster for that as well. But they still need Republican support in order to make changes to the filibuster. Okay, so it's it's going to be interesting to see how they move with this. Now, they did this before. Okay, they did this with the debt ceiling. Republicans came on board and supported the exemption, I guess you can call it, when it came to the debt ceiling. So the debt ceiling only needed 50 votes. So 50 votes from the Democrats, and then Kamala Harris coming in to break the tie. And so that's all Democrats needed at that time for the raising the debt ceiling. Another thing that I didn't mention, and I'll talk about it right now, is we're looking at a situation in February here, the 18th. Okay, the 18th. This is an important date because this is when the government will shut down if they can't come up with a budget. Okay, so that's something else that we're going to hear them talking a lot about. So that is a deadline. They usually like to use these deadlines to get other things passed. So we might see something moving forward when it comes to that. So shutting down the government, will the government shut down on the 18th, or will they be able to fund the government? And they're going to be really leaning on Republicans about this, because this needs to be something that's bipartisan. You should have Democrats and Republicans coming together saying, yes, we need to fund the government. It just doesn't make any sense why that wouldn't be the case. And the unfortunate part about this whole thing when it comes to shutting the government down, if we do go into a situation where the government shut down, and we've seen this before, we saw it in the Trump administration, you have a lot of people who will not be getting paid. And that's unfortunate. Okay, so a lot of federal employees won't be getting paid. You also have a situation where some people who contract with the government, so some different companies who do contracts with the government, they won't get paid as well. And so this would really have a negative impact on our economy. So this is not something that we can just take lightly. So we'll have to see February 18th, what happens? What will they do when it comes to the government and funding the government? So that's what we can anticipate in January of 2022 and into February. So there are a lot of things that need to happen. Congress will be there. We'll see what they can do. I want to know what you guys think about this whole thing, because it's pretty interesting when it comes down to it. There were two key pieces of legislation, the voting rights bill, as well as the Build Back Better plan, that did not go through in 2021. What do you guys think about that? Do you think 2022 they'll be able to get this through? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more. And everyone have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Bye.